It never really feels like the festival has started until I'm speaking to you, Gyles Brandreth.
Well, it's good to be back.
Good to see you again.
And I've come with something different. I mean, the joy for me of the festival is it's a place full of surprises. Thousands of shows, plays, dramas, people doing Macbeth with puppets in a telephone booth through to great big operas in the Usher Hall. And so every time I come, I try to do something a little bit different. And this year, I'm looking for happiness.
That's what the show's called.
Yeah.
I would have thought the number of times you've been here at the festival, you must have found happiness by now.
I do find
on this very sofa.
On this very sofa, I find joy. But I tell you what I find here. I usually find ecstasy. I find highs.
Do you?
I find highs. And they may not be what happiness is about.
Okay.
So the show, which we hope is funny, is actually an exploration of what is the nature of happiness. Is it more than, the kind of high you get from eating a nice piece of chocolate or meeting a nice guy or girl on a nice sofa like this? Is there something more to it than that? And of course there is. And it's intriguing. I was brought up, I used to go to church every week, and then I was told, that life is a vale of tears, and that happiness wasn't for this world, it was for the next world. And when did all that change? This life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. So it's really a journey. And the idea is that the show actually begins in Las Vegas with Frank Sinatra. And the audience, we're there, and we realize that actually we're in a dark place, we're in a wood, and we have to get through the wood to the glade where lurk the 7 secrets of happiness. And so there's a mixture of Dr. Freud turns up, Jung turns up, and I end up in reality, because I began this journey in Las Vegas with Frank Sinatra, and I ended it in Dublin with a man called Professor Anthony Clare. Do you remember Anthony Clare from the radio?
Yes, he made a program on a weekly basis about...
In the psychiatrist's chair.
The very one. Were you ever in his chair? Were you ever a guest?
No, I wasn't. But about 15, 20 years ago, when I lost my seat as an MP, I'd been an MP until the people spoke. In my case,
quite loudly.
Well, they did. They spoke in no uncertain terms. And my wife said to me, just face it, they don't like you, they don't want you. She actually put our house in the constituency up for sale during the election campaign. There's no vapid optimism with my wife. As she says, when one door closes, Gyles, it's shut.
Was that your second home that you put up for sale?
And exactly. So I was denied my job, access to the expenses, those lovely research trips to the Caribbean, all that suddenly taken away from me. And it coincided, more seriously, with the death of my best friend. And then my sister died, my brother died. And I thought, well, I'm this jovial chap, the fellow with the funny jumpers from Countdown, larking about, and I'm not really. I want to be happy. And so I went to see Anthony Clare, got on an aeroplane, and went to meet him in Dublin. And I said to him, I am looking for the 7 secrets of happiness. And he said, oh, there are 7 secrets, are there? I said, well, you know what I mean. He said, well, as it happens, I think I can help you. And it turned out that he had made a considerable study of happiness. And I began asking him things like, why, for example, were my parents happy during the Second World War? My parents always used to talk about the Second World War as being the happiest time of their lives. And my mother was in London where the bombs were falling. My father was at the front, risking his life. And he said, oh, well, that's really quite straightforward. During the Second World War, people felt a sense of community, a sense of unity, a sense of purpose. And the men who were fighting at the front, they were being tested. And being tested is very much part of how you become happy. Very few people who are happy are sitting around doing nothing. There's an interchange with life. And so he began to teach me the real nature of what makes people happy. And I learned extraordinary things. I mean, I discovered, for example, that married men are marginally happier than married women, but people who are married on the whole are happier than people who aren't. But when people die, this is very intriguing, when a man's wife dies, within 3 years, that man will either have remarried or he will die himself.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, the statistics, you produce the statistics are extraordinary. However, when a woman's husband dies, when a woman becomes a widow, when her husband dies, it makes absolutely no difference at all.
Is that because it's more common, do you think?
Well, no, I think it's because men rely so much on their wives, and women are more, contained.
We'll talk some more about the show in a couple of minutes' time. We'll take a quick break
I hope,
now.
Look, is it happy music you've got? We need, because one of the things that does make people happy, as well as laughter, is music.
On this station, we play nothing but the happiest of music, Gyles. You'll be delighted to hear what we're about to bring you. More with Gyles Brandreth in just a couple of minutes' time. I've no idea what we're playing at this point, but we'll
Sorry,
probably...
that was a bit mean. Wasn't it? Well, at least it won't be some lugubrious.
Well, I'll just intro the second bit then, shall we? Yeah. All right, we're back live at the Library Bar in the Gilded Balloon in Edinburgh, day one of the festival and Fringe proper, and we start, as we mean to go on, by looking for happiness. The company of Gyles Brandreth. Your show, Gyles, is on at the Pleasance 1 until the end of the run. Your search for happiness, I was going to say continues, but from what you said a few minutes ago, you've pretty much found it, and this show is about revealing what you've learned.
Yeah, it's called Looking for Happiness, and it's a journey to find these 7 secrets of happiness. And what's interesting about these 7 secrets that I worked on with Anthony Clare is that they work whoever you are, you know, gay, straight, fat, thin, ugly, pretty. Interestingly, I thought very beautiful people would be particularly happy. It turns out they're not. Human beings find extremes difficult to cope with. Marilyn Monroe was not very happy, which is intriguing. So it's about who gets to be happy and how. And along the way, I tell a few stories that I hope are amusing, and I take some interesting examples.
I wonder if the part of your career which interests me the most, actually, is the one that has generated the most potential happiness for you, which was your time as an MP that we touched on a few minutes ago. Now, we've spoken about this before, and the book that you wrote, which you shouldn't have done because you were a whip in the government, in the Conservative government, and the one thing that whips aren't supposed to do is to write diaries about their time. Of course, you did this, and it's a fantastically indiscreet book. It's called Breaking the Code, I think, was it?
Well remembered, it is called Breaking the Code, and you're right, it was the happiest time of my life. I felt when I was there that I was a leaf on a tree. I had a place that I belonged. It was a very close community, being a government whip, and you feel the work you're doing is useful, it's exciting, it's rewarding. And it was actually losing that job that in a sense provoked me to start on this journey. Freud, the great Dr. Sigmund Freud, he said something quite interesting, and that is to be happy you need to love and to work. Those 2 elements in your life. And I've been lucky in having, you know, friends and family to love and good work to do. And that was the most satisfying work. But of course, you know, nothing lasts. And it was taken from me. The people spoke, the bastards. And, you know, I had to find something else to do. So that's why I've ended up here in Edinburgh, which is a happy place. Intriguingly, here we are at the beginning of August. And Sunday was the birthday of Queen Elizabeth II. Queen Elizabeth II's mother. Queen Elizabeth, the late Queen Mother, who lived to 101. And I've been trying to work out why, and it's because actually she knew the 7 secrets, one of which is to have a passion in life, and she of course had a passion for gin and Dubonnet, and I think for being alive. And what is intriguing is that all the research, not just in this country, but major research, the longitudinal study of aging, shows, this is based on interviews with 20,000 people, surveys of people, that those who are happy, report themselves as being happy, live 7.5 to 10 years longer than people who are unhappy. So that actually being happy, coming to see my show doesn't just enhance your life, it extends your life.
It by 7 years.
This is how I got the grant from the National Health Service to put the show on at the Pleasance at these ludicrous prices.
Talking of family, as you did a couple of minutes ago, your son Bennett performed a show. Was it 2 years ago that Bennett
I know.
It was 2 years.
I know,
which means it's 3 years since I've seen you.
Well, God, you are sharp. I mean, given the drugs you're on, it's amazing.
I have to say that interviewing Bennett was, in many ways, a very fine temporary replacement for you. It didn't feel...
People often say to me, you know, your son is actually, he's the nice version of you. He's exactly like you.
I was going to say younger, but happier maybe.
Younger, happier, without the jumpers, without the heritage, and he's having children now, so he's very, very happy. He's loving having
And this makes you happy.
It does. Well, interestingly, family does make you happy. I mean, I now have 6 grandchildren. And that really is interesting because you're thinking outside yourself. I mean, one of the things that does make people unhappy, interestingly, is thinking about yourself. Introspection is an enemy of happiness. And actually, you know, having other people to think about is good because nobody's interested in you. You know, even your children aren't interested in you. I mean, my children seem to, I say, my children remember my birthday. My daughter-in-law certainly sends a card. That's about it.
That's all you can hope for, really.
That's
That's just a certain point, isn't it? The Pleasance 1 is where the show is on till the end of the run. Gyles Brandreth, not just looking for, but indeed having found happiness. Thank you very much for being our first guest, by the way.
It's been a privilege
of this very happy run that we hope to have here at the library.
I like to be number 1 in every sense.
Well, there we go. Thank you, Gyles.
The greatest